slugging in Dead by Daylight.
Let's talk about that.
Anyway, what is slugging real fast? The act of leaving a survivor on the floor without hooking them. Whether you bleed them out or whether you pick them up 30 seconds later, it doesn't really matter. No matter how you spin it, you have slugged. Now don't get it twisted, I'm not here to shame you for it or anything like that, because there are many reasons to slug. Whether you're playing a killer whose kit encourages it, like Sadako or the twins, maybe you need some pressure on the survivors, maybe you can't hook because it's a Sabo squad or they're using their anti-tunnel aggressively, maybe you want to counter anti-tunnel in its entirety by not hooking them and giving it to them in the first place, or maybe they'll get a flashlight save or a pallet save. It doesn't really matter. The point is, there's always reasons to slug even though the survivors pretend there aren't. Now Behaviour wants to address this base kit. I would argue that's a very silly idea given the current landscape of DBD, but hey, I guess Behaviour want more Blight and Nurse players. Now we do know the first iteration was going to be in their cancelled upcoming Chaos Shuffle mode. The third week of the anniversary was never supposed to exist. We were instead meant to get Chaos Shuffle and Behaviour was going to test Anti-Slug in this mode. The Anti-Slug in this mode being Base Kit Unbreakable and Base Kit Tenacity, so you crawl faster and you can pick yourself up indefinitely. But they cancelled it for, and I quote, "Following our internal testing, it did not meet our standards."
See, now that's some bullshit.
Respectfully, Behaviour, that's the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard in my life. You guys released the Doomed Course chapter out into the game, with Houndmaster being so broken it makes the twins look like a masterclass in coding. You're telling me that that release met your standards, but slapping some Unbreakable and Tenacity into Chaos Shuffle is where you draw the line?
No way that's true. As one says when she sees deodorant, I'm not buying it.
What I believe actually happened was a panic moment from the recent PTB. I don't know if anyone visited the forums for the PTB for the Walking Dead chapter, but to say killer players were unhappy is a gross understatement. It was a war zone over there, and I think they saw that, realised that throwing the nuke that is Base Kit Unbreakable and Tenacity 1 week later into Chaos Shuffle would have been such a lapse in judgment, even Behaviour realised they should probably postpone it. Now, that being said, this entire test should never have gotten past the meeting stage, let alone implemented and on the verge of releasing, and that doesn't bode well for whatever it is they plan to add. Now the test seems good on paper. Let's take Anti-Slug, slap it into the side mode so we can gather some data and see how it does without disrupting the main queue. But let's explain why this is such a one-dimensional way to look at the situation. Now the mode that they chose to test this out in is Chaos Shuffle, which gives you 4 random perks that you can't choose. You just need to go with the flow with whatever you get as a build. Now, as we established earlier, most of the factors that result in a killer slugging come down to countering perks and playstyles that need perks in the first place. Meaning, as a killer in Chaos Shuffle, you can tunnel players out with much less resistance because the survivors have random perks. You aren't dealing with the same 4 to 5 anti-tunnel perks every single match on every single survivor, since they're all random, and tunneling is also preferred from killers because it's a lot less macro than slugging. You can also hook people more effectively too, because few people are doing Sabo stuff because again, they have random perks and the playstyle is built on the perks. For example, this Sabo build that Tori has would be effectively impossible in Chaos Shuffle to come across, since she would need to roll these 3 perks out of a total 149 survivor perk and bring a Sabo toolbox in the same match. That's not really happening, is it? This meant that nobody really slugged in Chaos Shuffle to begin with, because you didn't need to do it to win most matches, which for the record is evidence of what I've been saying. If you want to fix the unfun playstyles like tunneling, slugging and camping, providing the killer with effective alternatives is a much healthier and more effective way of dealing with the problem, rather than just nerfing the killer's kit and nerfing all of the playstyles, because all that does is push the killer to the next sweatiest playstyle, with all roads leading down to Nurse and Blight. But back to the Base Kit Anti-Slug. So Behaviour wanted to gather data for Base Kit Anti-Slug by putting Base Kit Anti-Slug into the mode where nobody is slugging in the first place.
You're a fucking idiot!
Never have Behaviour's disconnect from how people actually play their game been on display more, meaning no valuable data could ever be gained from this test. Remember, Behaviour go entirely off of data, like kill rates. It's why the killer balance is in the toilet, because they have zero nuance when it comes to actually reading this data. So if they stuck this mechanic into Chaos Shuffle, then they saw that less than 1% of the matches the mechanic actually came into use because no one is slugging in the mode, they could conclude, oh, this mechanic is fine to put in the main game because it barely activates activated so it's not disruptive to the average match, ignoring the fact that it only activates 1% of the time because 1% of the time is when people actually slugged in Chaos Shuffle.
You suck.
And this is a problem with base kit anti-slug and why so many people are worried about Phase 2, because behavior fundamentally don't seem to understand how this game is played. The issues with Chaos Shuffle anti-slug are not hard to work out. I mean, Jesus Christ, even Reddit survivors, who are some of the lowest IQ people on the planet, who read 4 words of a reply and then make up the rest of the sentence and then go on some over-the-top ramble about how smart they are when they can't even comprehend a 2-line reply, noticed this when the leaks for anti-slug in Chaos Shuffle first dropped. One of the very first replies I saw was someone saying how tunneling is what they have to deal with in Chaos Shuffle, not slugging, so it doesn't make sense to do anti-slug. And yet behavior pushed it all the way through to almost being implemented into the game. If behavior are unable to notice a flaw so glaring that even DBD Reddit users can notice it, I have zero faith that they're even thinking critically about the potential repercussion of whatever they're adding and if it will actually benefit the game in any way. Again, when you overcorrect, so does the player base. An egregious anti-tunnel and slug will just push more people to blight and nurse. If you want to actually fix these problems, actually promote playing the other playstyles and make it worth doing for the killers. It's not that difficult.
Do it!
So, that's the rant on the cancelled Chaos Shuffle anti-slug over. We have the next topic, and that's the community suggestion for anti-slug. I found this out through Choy's video, who showed it off on Twitter and it did well or something. I don't know, I don't use Twitter. I'll leave a link to the tweet and the video below of Choy's if you want to see them yourselves. The person who made the initial suggestion, however, is someone called Shattered Cow. The way their system would work is if one person is down, they can't pick themselves up, period. But if 2 people are down, they can both recover to 90%, and when they have and are within 3 meters of each other, they could pick each other up and do the predator arm grab thing, doing a map-wide audio notification to alert everyone that it's happened. The predator arm grab is a nice little way to add some personality to the mechanic, so I approve of that.
Nice.
Now, would this system be better than base kit Unbreakable and Tenacity? Yes. It would be better because at least it requires teamwork to do it. But is the system perfect?
No.
It's not. I don't want to misquote Choy, so I'll play a section on his video where he talks about his opinion on it.
This is the healthiest solution to slugging and a million times better than just adding base kit Unbreakable or anything like that to the game. In my opinion, if behavior is serious about solving slugging in a healthy way, they should seriously consider a mechanic like this one. Also, I couldn't think of a single realistic way to abuse this mechanic in either direction. It's completely fair for both sides and it makes logical sense from a design standpoint. Now when your whole team is getting slugged, you can start crawling towards another slug survivor for a clutch but fair attempt at a comeback. The killer will also be aware of this, so they'll have to take it into account.
I disagree that it's not abusable. It's very much abusable, especially in a Swift, in a consistent way. Similar to how Exponential is abusable in a Swift when it comes to pallets. Let's use this footage of the twins I have from my last stream. Now in this situation, I down ace with Victor and then Lara kicks Victor. I walk up as Charlotte and catch Lara trying to pick up the ace. Some looping later, I down her under the pallet. Now after I pick up Ace, and Nancy shows herself with a flashlight, as we can see here. Well, let's imagine that this anti-slug mechanic is in the game during this situation. Well, Ace would have crawled under this pallet or gone down under the pallet initially when I downed him. So now when I down Lara, both Ace and Lara would have been under this pallet. Because Nancy is nearby, she makes it impossible for me to pick both these survivors up, because if I do, she's either going to flashlight save it or pallet save it. So I physically cannot hook in this situation. So because I physically can't hurt, I pressure Nancy so I can actually pick these two up. However, during this situation, these two are able to recover to 90% and then pick each other up. They wouldn't need to crawl to each other because they're already down beside each other under the pallet, and a decent group isn't going to go away from the pallet with a mechanic like this in the game. There is zero interactivity here from the killer side, and it's a complete lose-lose situation, despite the fact that they messed up. I'm not actively trying to slug here, I just have to given the situation. I would lose all my pressure to this base kit anti-cam. There is no playing with this in mind as the killer. My only solution would be to pick one of them up under the pallet so they can use the pallet to save that person, and then try and grab the other person before they get picked up and hope that they don't get flashlight saved while I'm going for that other person. A very clear-cut example of how this mechanic could be abused. Introduce other perks like soul guards, and when they do pick themselves up, they also get endurance, unbreakable so they can recover faster to give the killer even less time, and you'll create situations where Swifts endlessly go down on pallets with very little counterplay for the killer, just like with Exponential. Now, That being said, there is no base kit anti-slug that you can add that won't be abusable in a Swift. That's just how it is. A mechanic like this will always be abusable on comms, the same way any anti-slug or tunnel perk is more abusable on comms. It's just the way it is, and it's why people want Swifts to have some form of debuff to try and even the playing field a bit more. But if behavior insists on adding some form of base kit anti-slug into the game, this is one of the better ideas. Maybe they could put a cooldown on it to reduce how abusable it is, but it is still abusable at the end of the day. Now, I don't want to misrepresent Choy, okay? I don't think he actually wants base kit anti-slug in the game. He even admits it's a terrible time to implement such a mechanic.
But the reality is, base kit anti-slug is coming to the game whether we like it or not, and I would much prefer this future-proofed idea over some short-sighted band-aid fix like base kit every perk in existence. And again, I understand this is a horrible time and meta to implement any base kit feature like this. Killers are struggling right now, and it's tone deaf to put this on their shoulders as well. But just keep in mind that the alternative will be much worse, and sometimes it's smarter to just pick the lesser of two evils, right?
But he does believe, like me, that behavior are going to add some kind of base kit anti-slug anyway, and there's nothing we can do about it. So picking the least shitty option is the best that we're going to get to not completely destroy the balance of the game. I just wanted to point out that it was in fact abusable. Anyway, that's all from me, gamers. Check out Choy's video on the topic. It's a good watch, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.